welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. So today I'm going to be doing the low porosity hair vs the high porosity hair. So this is a collaboration with Tlago, Tlago's World. Go and subscribe to her channel. So I'm going to be explaining the high porosity. She's going to be focusing on the low porosity hair. So what is hair porosity? Hair porosity is the ability of your hair to maintain moisture. It does that in different ways, since we have three different types of porosity, which is the low porosity, the high porosity, and the medium porosity. I'm going to be explaining the high porosity hair and what does it mean when you have high porosity hair. Usually high porosity hair is referred to hair that is damaged from chemicals or from treatment or from coloring your hair or the environment. It can also affect your hair because your hair is prone to freezing and tangling. One another thing that you can do to test the porosity of your hair is using the glass of water at a room temperature and test your hair. So if your hair it sinks at the bottom, it means that your hair is high porosity. But a lot of people argue that the glass of water test is not accurate because your hair usually contains oils naturally, so oil and water don't mix, so your hair will definitely or obviously. One another thing to see that your hair is high porosity is that when you're washing your hair easily absorbs water and it doesn't take time to dry out. It can take maybe an hour, because for me, if I wash my hair usually takes an hour or 30 minutes to dry out. Yeah. Or when you're washing your hair, you can just wash your hair, then after washing your hair you just don't dry out your hair and skin, and then you wait and see either your skin or your hair dries out first. If your hair dries out first, it means that you are high porosity. Another thing with high porosity hair is that your hair has cuticles that are opened. Your cuticles are not closed, they are just opened like this. When it comes to hair products, is that your hair takes or swallows all the moisture. Usually when you're high porosity, products that you use, they don't sit on top of your hair because your hair has opened cuticles, so it's easy to take in that product, but at the same time you don't maintain that moisture for a very long time. Your hair easily dries out. High porosity hair loves products that has protein in them, or any protein treatment. You can do the hair mayonnaise treatment, and you can also do the rice water treatment for your hair. And don't put too much protein on your hair. You can just do it once a week, a month.
So if you have low porosity hair, if you perhaps did the floating test, which is the water test, your hair probably stayed at the top of the gloss and did not sink down to the bottom of the gloss. That is low porosity hair. And also another sign that you could be low porosity hair is if you wash your hair and then you get out of the shower and your hair probably takes hours or perhaps a day to like dry out. If it takes less than hours, perhaps a couple of minutes, you're probably high porosity, but if it's low porosity, it probably takes ages. So low porosity hair consists of hair that is like tightly bound cuticles which are overlapping each other like scales. So they are tightly like close together. They lay flat, all these scales. Here's a picture of an example of what like a hair strand of a low porosity hair will look like. That is why when you take one strand of low porosity hair and you just take your finger and you do this. So I'm gonna use an example. I'm just gonna say this is maybe a strand of hair, and if I do this and it is low porosity hair, it will feel smooth and there are no holes or bumps on like the hair. So that is why it looks like this. If you like get it into proper visual and whatever, that's what it looks like. So it's like closed up. That is the thing with low porosity hair, which is why it takes forever for low porosity hair to dry out, because the water will just sit on the hair because the hair cuticles are closed from absorbing in all that water. Basically, low porosity hair repels moisture when you try to wet it. And it is also hard to process low porosity hair because it resists the penetration of hair chemicals or any kind of chemical we're talking about, just chemicals in general. Because low porosity hair repels moisture, product can basically just sit on the hair and it may cause product buildup. And also, if you're low porosity hair, one of the things that can cause product buildup are, for example, products with high protein, like a lot of protein in them, which is why I would not really recommend people with low porosity hair to do the rice water rinse, because it might leave your hair dry and cringe up because it has a lot of protein inside, and protein makes low porosity hair stiff and straw-like. And I had that experience when I used rice water, so that's why I would recommend not using rice water if you have low porosity hair, and try to limit a lot of highly protein products with low porosity hair.
So how to retain moisture in high porosity hair? The first thing that I can advise on is avoid using heat, right? Remember, heat opens up your cuticles. So if you're high porosity, your cuticles are already opened. So do a cold water rinse for your hair, because cold water closes up the cuticle, so that will help your hair to maintain moisture. Another thing is to deep condition your hair every week. Remember, if you deep condition your hair, you are just adding moisture to your hair. Do a protein treatment for high porosity hair, and you can also use an apple cider vinegar to rinse your hair, because it helps to bring back the pH balance of your hair. Yes, that's all.
So here are some suggestions to helping retaining moisture in low porosity hair. One thing about that I can tell you about low porosity hair, and a lot of things that they say in the natural hair community it's kind of like contradictory, or they might say it doesn't work, but I guarantee you that it works because I have low porosity hair, is heat. When you have low porosity hair, heat is kind of going to be your best friend, because the cuticles of low porosity are tightly closed, and heat opens up these cuticles. Once these cuticles are open, that will help sink in the product inside your hair strands. One of the ways to open up your cuticles to helping bring in product is when you deep condition your hair, or when you condition your hair, or when you pre-peel your hair. Before you do that, put some warm water on your hair, but try to put on heat on your, like warm or hot water on your hair, and then put the product on. And once you've put in the product on, whether it's the conditioner, the deep conditioner, or if you're pre-pooing and you're using whatever product you want to use for pre-pooing, for example, if you're using your aloe vera, or you're using avocado to pre-poo, or you're using coconut oil as pre-poo, just do that. Before you put the product on the coconut oil or the aloe vera or whatever product you use to pre-poo, always put warm water on your hair first. Once you have the warm water, then you put that product on. And also, same applies to when you're going to condition your hair. Once you've put on the product, if you have a steamer, a hooded dryer, or a thermal heat cap, then lucky you can use those to kind of help bring heat on your hair, and the product will basically sink in. But if you don't have access to those, this is one way. Okay, I'm going to give two ways you can use if you don't have one of those. If you don't have access to one of those things, then one way is that you can take a plastic cap, or you can use a plastic bag, okay? And then you put it on your head, you put it on your hair, and you tighten it tightly, or you put it on after you put in the product. And then if you live in a warm area, you can just go sit outside in the sun. That can work, but sometimes that might not be a bit healthy for certain people. So instead of doing that, you can sit indoors. But then the difference between sitting indoors and sitting outside is that when you sit outside, you sit for a shorter time. So you can sit from like 30 minutes to how long you can sit outside, okay? But then when you're staying indoors, you're gonna have to stay in a bit longer if you have that cap on. So you're gonna have to go on for like probably, if you get what I'm saying. So if you're indoors, it's longer. If it's outdoors, just know that it's going to be a bit shorter, but just ensure that you're like in a warm area or underneath the sun or something, so that like the product can like sink in.